an ad that you would do now in probably 30 minutes on your computer, we would have about 2 weeks to do it.
What? You know how in this generation we're just like, I need it now.
Let's say you would have the same issues that you have now, it's just as faster. People that were using shortcuts didn't appreciate the consistency of a good look. I got one with 2 floppy drives and a separate hard drive and the keyboard, of course, and a printer. And I called it my Volkswagen because the cost for it, I could have gotten a brand new Volkswagen for.
Wait, what?
Yeah, way back then. Yeah, it was insane. My mom made scrapbooks, different cards for each year I grew. To me, that's, how did my mom have the patience to do that? So it's like being a historian of our family for my sisters and I.
What, the dementia, it's like the feeling that you get when you show her a photo, it's like, and then she lights up. That's such a powerful thing.
And it's an emotional thing, because when she first started getting it, that was the tool that I used to get a smile on her face.
Everyone has their own way of seeing how much photography can mean to them in their lives, and for you that was thank you for sharing that.
Good photo tells a story. You're telling me, and this was 50, 60 years ago when you were little, and you're still sharing that bad picture. That's what pictures do. Memories would be built from that, and then makes you want to revisit it.
Welcome back to Hit Record. My name's Keenan Manuel, and today we have a wonderful guest, and his name is Jim Clark. Jim Clark is a wonderful photographer who also has a magazine called, I believe, Amuse magazine. If you could please show everyone the front cover. What issue is that, by the way?
This, I don't know. It's number 4 of 2023.
There we go.
So basically, I do 4 a year. My wife would let me do more if I didn't spend $200 to $500 on each issue.
Oh my. Well, support us, guys. Support. You can go to his website. I believe you said it was?
Oh, yes. IamJimClark.com.
Yes. It's a personal brand, too.
Personal brand, definitely.
Okay. And now we're actually recording the audio. All right, whatever.
Take 3. No.
Yes. But, okay, so going to the first question. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful.
You're doing wonderful.
It's been a long day, a long week, but any time to get to play with creative friends is always a good time. So, if they put up with me, that is.
You just came back from an event, by the way. You
yes,
were
I was shooting
right?
pictures at Symphonia tonight. And it's,
how did it go?
It went really well. There's a lot of people that have more money than I do, buying things that they really don't need, but it's for a great cause, so it's good. Yeah.
So remember the other conversation? They were the event that I was at. They had like a pair of Panera watches.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know how much it would cost. I found out one cost $20,000.
Yep, I could believe that because I talked to 2 of the gentlemen today about cameras, and one of them used to shoot Canon and saw that I had the Sony, and he's like, "How do you like it?" He goes, "I'm thinking about getting that one." We talked for a little bit, and then found out he was in cybersecurity, going to school for that. But then realized he and the other gentleman were the security for those watches.
Wait, is this Zach?
That's his name.
They have short. He didn't have any hair, but he was white tan suit.
Probably.
Okay, he's a PI, private investigator.
Yeah,
okay, go on.
But they were real nice guys, and I came back later, and the music was thumping, and everybody's like looking around, and they're still standing there with like their arms crossed and everything. I'm going, okay, are you guys security, or are you guys here with the watches, or are you going to take some pictures, or what? And they're like, no, we're security, and it was very cool because I was being an ass, joking around, smart ass. So it was fun, and then by the end of the afternoon, they're like, that was fun, wasn't it? And I'm going, and he goes, but I'm not used to standing up this long all day long. And I go, you'll get used to it, or you'll, get an Advil.
Wow. Well, as you guys know, the watches they're about $20,000. It starts from $5,000.
Yes.
It's too much for nothing.
Well, it's jewelry. To me.
Necessary. You want to buy? Hey, we're not in the world of rich people. Okay, let me rephrase. It's a different world where we don't necessarily understand what it's like to have access to those things on a regular basis.
Well, that disposable income,
Oh, we are going to talk about some illegal tactics to get more money. We're not doing that. Okay. All right. So, Jim, tell us who you are, what your mission is as a creative, and what you do. That is the first question of the day or the night. You
What
ready
I
to answer
do-
that?
Over my career, I've done quite a lot. It's like back in the day when I was young, even high school,
Yeah.
I enjoyed drawing. And so I was in the art classes, and I found out that you could get attention from the opposite sex by making nice pictures. And they would say, Jim, that's a cool picture. How'd you do that? And you would show them, and you do this. And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of cool. And then it's totally true. And ended up getting into, I guess it was like directed study. Basically, you could get out of one of your classes and go do art for an hour.
Oh my God.
And learned that I enjoyed art. With that said, my mom wanted me to become an art teacher, and
Yeah.
that didn't work because
Okay.
started doing classes towards that. And the very first time I went to student teaching, there was like 20 kids in there, and we were going to do a screen printed T-shirt. And I'm like, that's cool. I
Yeah.
would love to do this. Well, out of the 20 kids, there was like 5 of them that were even paying attention, and out of those, only 1 wanted to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to teach kids if this is the way they're going to do it. So I decided I'd go to another direction, and I thought about doing fine art.
Okay.
And so started taking that, and then graphic design classes, 2D design classes as well. And then realized that after I got out of school, that if I wanted to be successful with fine art, I had to move to Chicago or New York or all
Okay.
that. And for some reason, it snows there every year.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a little chilly. And so that isn't going to work for me either.
Okay.
So I ended up going into the advertising field as a graphic designer first. And it's like you could use your drawing, expertise to do something. This was back before you were born, and we didn't even have computers. So if you didn't have a
Whoa.
budget to do photography to use the picture of the vehicle,
Yeah.
you would draw it, and then you would take a picture of it, and then you would post it down on an ad layout board, and then you would send that camera-ready art to the newspaper, and they would process it to make it
Oh,
into
wow.
an ad. Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So like mail, you would mail it. Basically, you guys were depending on that system. How like getting the final deliverables? It was a different system back then compared to
Basically,
now.
an ad that you would do now in probably 30 minutes on your computer, we would have about 2 weeks to do it.
What?
Because you would meet with your client and they'd say, I rent DVDs, and here's, well, not DVDs, back up, VHS.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, so you'd get this VHS from Jaws or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so we would make an ad featuring that, saying that they were going to have 10 copies of that movie in their video rental store coming up, and you would do a Jaws mini poster and say, if you want to see Jaws at the comfort of your own home, go to XYZ VH place. And
But there wasn't any facilities where you can do that on one place?
no,
There had to be one.
you had a lot of the
Why?
rental places. Why? I don't know. I was too young to know why.
Okay. All right. We'll figure it. Wow. See, no, that made me just really like open my eyes, because you know how in this generation we're just like, I need it now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like seconds, dude. Like what? You can get it in less than a minute, but I didn't realize.
Let's say
it was-
you would have the same issues that you have now. It's just as faster. Back then you had an account executive that go and talk to the client, and then they would come back and they say, okay, our client wants to sell 100 of these things. Now we have to figure out how to sell that
Yeah.
for them. And so then it would go to a copywriter, or they would give us samples of this stuff. We would either take pictures of it, draw it, and give them a mock-up. And us as art directors / designers would say, okay, well, I'm going to, put in a headline for it. And then I already had the logo from their business, so I put that in place. And then I'd say, okay, this is their contact information, phone number, all that stuff in place.
Do you have to fight for columns too? Like in newspaper, you would have to,
Yes.
there's spaces that you have to choose. But for you at that time, did you have to
At that
fight for
time,
your own column in magazine or whatever?
Yes, in the columns widths, you had a machine a computer, you typed in, I want your columns to be 1.5 inches wide, and the type to be 8/16, so you had 8-point height type and
Okay.
16 in the lettings, and then you would type all your words in, and then that would come out, and you would do a film processing kind of thing like you did with cameras, but it would come out of the
Yeah.
machine, you'd wash it,
Yeah.
and then you'd have this piece of paper that you'd look at it, and then you'd cut it out, put rubber cement on the back of it,
What?
stick it onto an illustration board, And if you're letting, or you had one word sticking off the end that looked stupid, you like go back and do it all over again, and then you go through that process. But the 2 weeks was basically you coming up with those ideas, and then someone would work on the copy for the ad, and then that would go back to the client, and they'd go, no, you need to say it like this, and then you'd put it together. And then if you had to do, say you were doing a 3-column by 10-inch ad, and they were also only had a budget for that to run twice, and then they wanted to go down to a 2-column by 6-inch ad, you had to shoot it down under another photography type machine, stack camera, and say, okay, it needs to be 70%, and hope that falls in that range.
What the hell?
Oh, it's crazy. You had a little wheel called a proportion wheel.
Okay.
And you would look at it, and in the middle part, it would say a percentage. So if you put in one size here, and you turn it to the size that you need it to be, and it would say in the middle, you need to reduce that 62% to get to that second size. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a matter of, like on your computer today, you just do another ad layout, and then you copy it and paste it and reduce it as a group or something.
Okay, so now that poses an interesting question. We will get to the questions here later, but this is an interesting conversation. We all know when the introduction of Photoshop, all of those software, and now that you had a bit of experience in having to learn how to take one piece of content into another content that's a whole different kind of workflow versus what we have now. How did it feel watching the change from learning all of those, spending hours making sure that everything's perfect, only to just start to learn only to start learning the systems like software, so Photoshop, to cut that number of hours into just maybe less than. How did it feel to watch that transformation?
It was more like Christmas.
Really?
Because you went from doing it that way to having a computer now that you could do your type in the computer, and you could do your box in the computer if you needed to, and then you eliminated some of those processes that way, or even the approval process, because then you could print out what it looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know, this book may have, as I think I did it in the back. Now that you asked that, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
There is the proportion wheel that I was talking about, that little round thing right there.
Yeah.
And then this was the paint
can you make
thinner
it
you
out
did
without a computer?
And this you would do a headline, you would rub off these letters individually to make a headline like this, and then you would.
What?
Oh yeah. And well, look at that mahi mahi. Yeah. This illustration, I drew it once and then used a copy machine to replicate it, and then tied it down. This was chart pack lettering, and then copied it to make the second one. Logo placement. This little texture down here was crumbling up a piece of paper on the copy machine and making it rough to get a texture like fish or something. Yeah, so you had to figure out within your means of how to make stuff happen for you.
Wait, whereas in the Photoshop, you just get a texture from online?
Yeah.
What?
Well, there was no textures
you actually had to
there was no onlines. Online wasn't until later. This was what the first Mac that I had looked like.
Wait, that's the Macintosh.
Yeah, this was probably the second version, because mine had 2 floppy drives in here, and I got one with 2 floppy drives and a separate hard drive, and the keyboard, of course, and a printer. And I called it my Volkswagen, because the cost for it, I could have gotten a brand new Volkswagen for.
Wait, what?
Yeah, way back then. Yeah, it was insane.
Wait, how much was that at the time?
Oh, I don't know, probably like $6,000 or something like that.
Wait, you're telling me a Volkswagen cost that much at that time?
Yeah. I think the new ones were like that. Yeah.
What in the world?
It was fun to go where now, any of these things here you could probably do in an hour, maybe not the insides of a presentation.
How does it feel to have learned all of that process? What were some of the parts that you were able to translate into the digital world of that process in making a magazine or ads? But were there some things that you could still...
You still had the basic elements. You had a company's logo. You had what you felt was their brand or their look for that. So you could keep that consistent, and it was easier to keep the consistency across the platforms because you had all those elements. Like if you were doing a TV spot, and you could say, okay, well, usually on the footer of my Well, now website now is going to look similar to the footer on, say, my TV spot on the corner. So you could have those types of things.
How does it feel? How does it feel to know that that's becoming it's not necessarily a lost art. Well, I feel like it is, but how does it feel to? Do you think there's still some merit to still doing that process? It's like a lost. You know how lost art, they're just dying off.
It's kind of one of those things. It's kind of because in the middle there, we were talking earlier about AI.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, it used to be you only had so many fonts available on your computer, and then they became a CD that you could get 1,000 fonts on, and all the graphic designers thought, oh, we're going out of business now because that person can spend $70 and get the CD and have every font that we want to use. Well, then what you ended up happening was you had people that didn't know their graphic design, and they would have like 10 fonts in an ad, and you're like, is this a ransom note or is this an ad? Because there's so much stuff going on.
Oh, wow.
So the people that were using shortcuts didn't appreciate the consistency of a good look. So you'd have some things that, well, I can't even tell if that's that brand site. It looks like it could be this brand site because there's no consistency in the two ads.
Damn, I mean, okay, so you know how the rise of the film photography, it's some, there's some things that seem to die off and then all of a sudden it just comes back. There's a huge surge in wanting to bring back that specific art form. Do you see that for that kind of workflow?
For the film photography? Or
No, not film photography. I'm using it as an example of how one thing that was once seen as a dying art, it will never come back. But all of a sudden it just came back into popularity. Could that be the same for...
I don't see this one doing it unless it becomes a, kind of a vintage feel on your ads, because you can still get a different look by doing stuff like that, where it's not perfect. Like it's like doing a drawing versus taking a picture and then putting a filter on it. The drawing will have that personal touch, where the filter may just throw random stuff, not even random, it may be the same thing over and over again onto it to get that look.
It's like our conversation, losing the personal touch, not just with the digital, but the fact that you took hours to make that. It's like, that's a lot of DNA from you to make, even if it's... Wow, guys! I hope you learned a bit of a history on what would you call that process again? What's the word for that process?
Well, it's basic layout and design on an illustration board with overlays and typesetting that you wouldn't have. You wouldn't just type out the words. You would rub a piece of a letter onto an illustration board to make sure your kerning was correct. And all of that stuff, and take a picture of it, then take it over here to use it for another thing.
Something you just said reminded me of Steve Jobs. I remember when he was younger, he took calligraphy classes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Damn, it's a lost art.
Calligraphy, there's actually some people around here that still do that, and they're very good, but there's no real thing other than doing somebody's name that's appreciated anymore. It's almost like the monks that used to do the Bibles and do all that. And they only had a limited numbers of pieces of, the product that they would write on. And now it's like, push another button and you have a couple hundred of them,
The value is just not there. Well, in this day and age, it's just so hard for them to really see the value because it's the instant gratification of being able to get that. It just removes that. Wow, I really want it. Oh my gosh.
But then again, I think too, in the creative process of that, people will just take what's close to that and not improve on it. Because I've always noticed that in like creative tanks where you're doing brainstorming and you'll say, okay, well, we're thinking about selling this dog food product and we know dogs like to hang around trees, so we need a logo. And so the first person goes, okay, well, let's do a dog in front of a tree. Well, that may not be the right solution. It could be something that simulates a tree and a dog, but it may not be the whole dog. It could be a shadow of the dog on the trunk of the tree where you see two things, and it gives it to another level to where you want to remember that. To go, oh, that's it.
Oh my God.
It's that dog. It's this. It's not just a dog in a tree, because it's the first thing they thought of. It's, creative to me is writing all those things down and going, okay, this is good. But what if we take these three things and incorporate into one, and that gets us to another direction, and then we make that even better by honing it down.
That is, I don't think that one is being done anymore, because that what you just reminded me of is the film strips or the comic strips, and then there's at the time during the 80s or 90s, I remember there were a lot of, we're not getting in politics here. But I will say, I remember seeing a lot of political art where they're just so creative with the way they can say a certain thing, but without coming off as offensive. There's some political art where it just hits the message, but that's not being. I don't think that's as common now. It's just like. People don't want to look for it, I think people don't want to look for that anymore. It's just sad.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like straight in your face now.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's no thought process on it, and it's a process on it. They're just gonna go, ooh, I hate that, or ooh, that's really bad, or ooh, that is weird, And it's not. They're not taking account of who they're showing it to.
Yes. I think they're just okay. We need to get to the questions. But the last thing I was that I hope you enjoyed the conversation. That was really good. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
I'm just happy to be here.
Okay. The last bit to that is when you were mentioned about how where they don't focus on who they're showing it to anymore. I think the greed and the profit over quality mindset in most companies, it's just destroying a lot of that. And when that happens, I can see how it's starting to erode the trust in the customer, especially if you want to sell something that's meaningful. But now they're just already used to just automatically saying, nope, don't want it, because the first thing they think of is, oh, you're trying to sell me something.
And you're trying to overpower their thought process of why they want it.
Yes.
It's like, you want this because you think orange is your favorite color. Well, no, I want this because I like the smell of oranges and the texture and the taste. Well, that's okay. If we only do it because orange is your favorite color, we'll sell these many units.
Yeah.
Well, that may be happy with them, but it's not good for the product or the people that are getting it,
Do not ever do profit mindset, guys. If you are a company and you own that and you have that mindset, I will shut you down. I'm kidding. Okay, Jim, thank you so much for.
Well, that becomes one of those ethical questions.
What?
It becomes an ethical question.
We are now skipping to 1, 2, 3.
You don't have to skip through it.
Somewhere there. That is actually a great segue into that. Yeah, talk about the moral ethics about that, actually.
Advertising is a thing where you are creating a work of art or a feeling to sell somebody something.
Okay.
It shouldn't be, you've all heard sex sells.
Yes.
That's a thing that now you wouldn't say it because it's, not the right thing to say, and it's just pure wrong. But you want to sell something that benefits your client with the client's benefits to them,
Yeah.
And it's like, this will make you feel better because you'll get out more and ride your bike, and this is our ABC bikes.
Okay.
Get out, see the world, enjoy some fresh air, get some exercise. Not that, you want to feel better, you need a red bike. That's not going to help you, other than if your favorite color is red, then you would go, oh, that's cool, but you're not getting no benefit of it.
Yeah.
And you just said that, you say that Mr. or Mrs. Movie Star rides that bike, so you should ride it, and that's going to make you feel better. Well, it's not really.
That sounds like a FOMO mindset. Fear of missing out. It's manipulative.
Yeah, I think it would be that as well. But I don't know. Ethics is one of those things that, it's just like you were mentioning that they just want to sell so many units. Well, that's just a money-driven thing rather than if those things aren't really helping people, they're actually killing small dogs that those people have, and you didn't know that, and now you do, and you're still selling it. So it's very unethical for the poor dog that's dying, and the people that are doing it now are mad at your product because it did it, and you have no, remorse, I guess. You go,
Yeah.
it's okay. We sold 1 million of them, so.
There's a lot to unpack here. I have 3 points to unpack here. So
Okay.
the first point is, I remember seeing magazines or commercials where they focus on the smoking.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a rise. Reading it, I read it in a magazine. I think it was whatever. Basically, there was a rise in how they were trying to sell as tobacco wasn't a bad thing. There's this cool image of being someone who smokes, and now it kind of like shifted, and now we're just saying no, smoking's bad. Do not do that. But there's vaping. So where do you think, from your perspective, the morals and ethics, all of that, where do you think that comes into play in portraying? What are your thoughts on what morals and ethics, and when it comes to doing ads and marketing, on something that's now considered as not a good thing?
Well, it depends. If that person that's creating the ad for this client has no morals, they would think it's a fine thing because we're going to sell these many things before we get in trouble for doing it. And we're okay. But then they're not thinking about what that may do to someone else. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't be smoking. Well, that I think still on cigarette things.
Yes.
And then when it switched over to vapes, all the vape stuff is flavored that kids would like. And that's ridiculous. But to me, that's, I don't know if it's the tobacco industry. I guess it would have to be of them trying to keep part of the market that they're losing due to the having to regulate their smoking advertising. So,
can you describe the morals? Like there's a black area, there's a gray area, and there's a white area, black and white. What can you categorize? What would be considered something in the black area, and the other in the gray area, and the other in white? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I think it's one of those personal things. Because if you're an immoral person, you're not worried about, you mean, unless you're saying black as far as one person versus another person. But if you're not moral and you don't have any ethics, you'll do anything to make money or to make yourself look better or, those kinds of things. Whereas if you do, use an example, say photographers.
Yes.
There's tons of photographers out there. I can say I'm a good photographer. I'm never going to say I'm the best photographer because I always see someone's work that's so much better than mine.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, I really like this. And if I ask that person, how did you do this? And they tell me, I go, well, this guy wants to share and enhance the whole group of photographers. Whereas that person goes, well, I'm not going to tell you because then you'll be copying my style.
Yes.
Well, that person is more caring about themselves than they are of what they do.
Okay.
I shoot pictures because it's one of my passions, and it's because when my mom was young, she was, the oldest in her family, and her dad knew he could trust her with the camera because it was expensive back then, and so she was the one that went around started taking pictures.
By the way?
Huh?
What was the camera that she had?
I don't even know which one it was. It was one of the film cameras, but it was probably like it was definitely a point and click, and so you'd like click, and then you just turned it and clicked.
Oh, that kind of camera.
Yeah.
All right.
So she would have pictures from that, and you wouldn't know what was on them until they processed them like you do before.
Yeah.
Now you know what's on them as soon as you put them on your computer, and that's different. So to me, that made me realize that all the older pictures that we see of our relatives that someone's taken for us or in our family that's taken, it hits me in my heart. It's like, okay, I wouldn't remember you unless I saw that crumbled up picture that's been under here for a while, and you were in it, and you were here with the dog next to the lake, and you tell that whole story without even seeing the picture. So that's what she was doing. And when I was younger, and my sisters as well, my mom made scrapbooks and basically did cut and paste of Christmas cards, a lock of my hair when I was born, something from the hospital, different cards for each year I grew. And it's it's like 2 inches thick. And to me, that's, how did my mom have the patience to do that so many years? It was just something she wanted to do. So it's like being a historian of our family for my sisters and I. So when I started seeing that as I got older, so I think I was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
I started doing photography, and I would love to take pictures of some of the places that she was at when she was younger and when we traveled and that kind of thing. And some of that stuff I'm still sharing today to relatives that I don't even really know, other than they may live in Canada or they may even live in this place. And they're like on Facebook going, "That's so cool that you got a picture. You know, we hadn't seen pictures of our grandmom in so long, or our mom."
Wow.
You know, and that's the kind of stuff that I think is so cool. And to me, a ethical, caring, compassionate person is going to share things that they like and tell other people that they could do that same thing. It's just a matter of, you know, learning how to push a button. With our phones, it's easy, you know.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody you can't take a bad picture. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And
Now I'm about to ask, what are you talking about?
well, basically, I was asked to teach a class over in Gulf Coast, over in Panama City, on photography, because their person couldn't do it. And I said, "Well, how long is it?" And they said, "It's 4 nights and over a 2-week period." And I said, "Okay." Well, I started out going, "Everybody, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad photo." And everybody's like, and I'm going, "What's going on?" I go, "I can tell you that." And some of the guys go, I go, "Raise your hand if you can tell me, you know, a bad photo that you know." And I go, "And don't just say it's out of focus or it's, you know, the color's right or whatever. You know, tell me what you really think about it." And this one gentleman stood up, and he was probably, I don't know, 65 or 70. He goes, "I remember when I was little, I was 11 years old, and me and my dad, we were fishing down to this pond.
Yeah.
I caught the biggest fish that I ever caught. And I said, 'Dad, can you get your camera out of the car and take a picture for me?' Dad, of course, said, 'Yes, we're going to do it.' Well, Dad went to the went to the car, got his camera out, and he's holding up his fish again, and he holds it up towards his dad, and his dad takes a picture. Well, the picture focused on the son, not the fish. And so the guy didn't like it because his fish wasn't in focus, but it was focusing on him. And I'm like, and so you think that's a bad picture because you couldn't see your fish real well? He goes, "It's the biggest fish I've ever caught." He goes, "I haven't caught one bigger than that now." And I go, "Well, listen, you just told me a story that I can almost smell the smells from the air around where you went fishing.
Yeah.
I can tell everything about it." And I go, "That is awesome. A good photo tells a story. You're telling me, and this was, 50, 60 years ago when you were little, and you're still sharing that bad picture photo.
That's a good photo with a great story.
Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Well, I didn't think about it like that." And I'm going, that's what pictures do. When you go see a movie, you're wanting to get a scary or a positive or a creative, experience, and hopefully it tells a story that sticks with you. So that's the reason behind that. Yeah.
Lots to unpack here again. Oh my God. Okay. The other thing was like I think he may have seen it in the wrong way, but I think the father subconsciously took a photo of his son because it's his son. Like,
it's his son, exactly.
He's proud of it.
He's
like, it's not the fish, but it's the happiness that he could see on the son's face.
Mm-hmm. And he wanted to experience, save that experience for his son as well as for himself. Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing where you have the power to capture a story. And that's such a hard thing to remind people, that you just don't take photos just for money. You actually, like what you said, you take photos and you're the one with the power to just freeze that moment in your life of what's unraveling in front of you. It's a great story, and like I love what you said. If you're still telling the same story from that same photo,
for so many years,
it's not even awesome. A bad photo.
No, it's a great story.
It is.
It's not about the photo anymore. It's about, that experience with your dad and the brook running by and you're catching fish, and you had a great time where you thought, "Okay, Dad, will you capture this moment for me?" And he gets the pictures, and it became a bad thought in your mind, but you're still sharing it. So,
what do you think people get hung up on technicals? Because I feel like that's where they come. Ooh, like what he said, it's out of focus. It's not supposed to. What do you think about that?
In that same class, you ask, because we didn't. I don't think we had mirrorless cameras at that point. And because I had asked the class, I go, "Okay, how many people have Nikon? How many people have Canon? How many people have something else?" Well, they raised their hands. The Nikons and the Canons were like split 50-50.
Okay.
And then there were some Sonys, and not Sonys. Panasonic, I think it was, a couple other brands.
Okay.
And then someone goes, I don't even know what my camera is. I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. I wanted to learn. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Hopefully we can teach you, or someone here can teach you.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the differences between, it became from talking to the different people during the class that
Yeah.
the Nikon folks, which this is no scientific thing at all, but a lot of them wanted no shadows in a picture. They wanted the light to be perfect. They wanted, it more of a posed shot than a candid shot.
Yeah.
And then the Canon people wanted it more artsy. And if they accidentally bumped themselves when they took a picture and then made a blur, they were excited about that because it showed some motion that they didn't know how they got, but they still got some of it in focus,
Yeah.
and they thought it was artsy. So I know you can be artsy with either one because no matter which camera on, it's
Yeah.
the person that's shooting it. But I thought that was interesting that, and some of the older gentlemen were retired Air Force
Yeah.
stuff, so they were probably dealing with specs all the time. It's like, okay, this has to be this way. You have to be able to read all of
Yes.
it and look at it. And to me, that's a technical drawing. That's not a photograph.
Yeah.
But it was strange. It was a strange process.
Well, then basically, do you agree that art in general is subjective? Because one, you could say that's a bad photo, but that's also a great photo.
Yeah.
Another, you will never be able to get everyone to agree on.
You go to any art gallery or museum and you see
Yeah.
that person just sitting there looking at the work, and if you went up to them, asked them what they thought about it, it's probably the total opposite of what you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because it could relate to, well, this lady that's in the picture and she's petting her cat and while she's looking out the window.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of my grandmother. And when you're looking at it and going, I really like the fashion that's on the lady's clothes, and that cat looks like it's a hairless something or other, and you're not even thinking about her looking through the window. You're saying the light's hitting it neat. So there's plenty of ways.
See, a perfect photo is boring. Even if the light's just off, it's just just a certain charm to imperfect photos. I think that's a style that's. Have you started seeing styles where everyone's starting to do more blurry and it's like cut off it's like breaking
Breaking the
out of
rules.
the rules.
Yeah.
Their head is cut off, but you can tell the story with the motion of their body, especially in wedding photography and couples photo. I've seen some of that stuff in this area. It's like,
Well, a lot of the wedding stuff has gone to more documentary style
Yeah.
rather than pose stuff, which to me, I love that because there's nothing more aggravating when you're getting a group of people together and mom's sitting there looking like this and dad's eyes are closed. Yeah, exactly. And then somebody's got their, funny face and the kid scratching its ear, and you take that picture and they're going, well, we really don't like your style of photography because look at these people. And I'm like, those are your people. But I didn't shoot a lot of that. But then they love the ones where you go, the ring bearer's down here and grandmom and granddaddy's right above him. And you lower your camera down and you shoot at his angle. And he looks up at you and he's just looking up into the stars or something. You get that and you show him and go, oh my God, I love our little grandbaby, that kind of stuff. And it's like, yes, we need to shoot more stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not more of this, oh, there's grandmom, granddaddy,
Like the
get a picture.
1800s style.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to hold it for 30 seconds before we get the picture.
going back, I wanted to touch on when you were, I think you said 16 or 17, and then your mom was the one taking the photos, basically the historian of your family, basically. Out of all the things that you saw from the scrapbooks to being the one that always handed the camera to take all of the moments, when you decided to do photo, is there one thing that you can say now that made you really appreciate why photography is the great choice for you based on what your mom did for you guys?
Well, based on mom, it was more capturing the moments of people that I may not have met or got to know very well, or places like she's from Newfoundland, Canada, and so the traveling there is totally different than here. And so I would be able to look at those things and say, hey, I need to go back there, or see how much it's changed from way back then to now with a new picture, that kind of stuff. And then with my mom, she has dementia, but she can remember where the brooks and stuff that we would go up the hills and go pick blueberries, and we didn't have pictures of that, but she would tell us those stories, and then we would get back and we would have a picture of ourselves with some blueberries and some cream on top, eating that. And so those two would tie to the, the story of going up in the woods. And it was crazy because we were 9, 7, and 3. And we would just take off in the morning. And as long as we were home before it was dark, they wouldn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing half the time. You'd just be sitting on a big rock looking at the water go by or go walk by with these horses, and you'd memorize. Memories would be built from that, and then makes you want to revisit it.
Oh man, I can't imagine what it's like. With the dementia, it's like I would imagine the feeling that you get when you show her a photo. It's like, and then she lights up.
Oh yeah.
That's such a powerful thing.
And it's an emotional thing. Because when she first started getting it, that was the tool that I used to get a smile on her face. I've got a book of her older pictures that she took, and then it ends with, I think, some of the ones that we took on the last vacation going up there. And she's like, "Oh, that's your Uncle Johnny, and this is his kids, and I wonder what they're doing now." Or it's a picture of her folks that she took when she was younger, who've been gone for 60 years. And she's like, "How is Mom and Dad doing?" And it's sad to say, you have to say they're doing fine, because if you don't, then she gets upset. And we didn't know that until the learning process of saying, they had passed away a long time ago. And then you see your mother get upset and tell one of her friends that she hasn't known for a day or two, but she thinks she's known them for 8 years. So, but I still use it today. It's actually in the trunk of the car right now.
Photo really has a certain place in our own hearts as a creative, and for you, being able to do that and connect that bond within your mom and for you and everyone else. Everyone has their own way of seeing how much photography can mean to them in their lives, and for you, that was. Thank you for sharing that. That was. Wow.
And shoot, another little story on that. I was asked to come shoot pictures at one of the hospitals in Fort Walton, and there's this group that would come and sing Christmas carols the week before Christmas to the people that were in the terminally ill areas or the cancer wards, that kind of thing. And you weren't allowed to take pictures of the, I say guests, but the patients there. And we had one couple that was dressed up as Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And I remember one time when Mr. Claus was in the room and the carolers were here, and I asked the nurse on staff, I said, "Do you mind if I take a picture of Santa Claus and I won't get the face of the patient?" She goes, "As long as you're not getting the face of the patient, it's fine." Well, Santa had his hand next to the lady's hand, and the lady's hand, was a 95-year-old lady, so it was bony and wrinkled and stuff, and so you could see the light on that, and then the Santa was up here looking at her eyes, but I couldn't see her eyes because it was cropped there, and you could just tell that she was enjoying it without seeing her face through the reaction from Santa. And it was like such a touching moment for me. It's still one of my favorite pictures, and it's crazy. It makes you appreciate life, one, and two, that you can still make people happy when it's closer for their passing. It's crazy. I know it's deep.
No, bro, this is a safe circle, literally. No, I'm really happy to hear sharing that. That's because one of the things I really appreciate in all the conversation in this one is to just try to. I just want to get past the typical stuff like, "Oh yeah, how much money do you make in photography? Blah 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 blah. Ooh, how do you get this in?" I mean, we'll dive into it, but it's like that's not my main focus. My main focus is who the hell is Jim Clark?
Well, it's with photography. You say that I tell everybody that it's a passion.
Yes.
I go, you can make money with your passion, but that's a whole different type of thing. If it's like a musician. If a musician gets up in the morning and says, "I'm going to write a song," and then I do it, and then I go play it, and I might make a little money, or if I don't play it because I wrote it for my girlfriend that I just broke up with, that I'm still mad about, or still in love with, the kind of thing, it's still got a reason for doing it. And I get, as I'm getting older, I say older, I mean as I get tired, because I'm never going to get old, but that I get up and I want to go capture some images. It can be anything. I can walk out the door and it could be a frog that's got squished on the pavement, and it's like, I'm going to take a picture of it, and people go, "Why would you do that?" I go, that was that frog's last day on Earth.
Oh no.
That's what it looked like. And I'm going, I like the way he looked or she looked. And it may be gross to some people. My mom used to joke with me, like, because I would see a lot of, hey,
sorry.
Time's up. No.
My goodness. I'm going to mute this.
But I would do, like a dead bird. I'd see that. You take pictures of it.
There's something about the mundane stuff too.
Well, yeah, but it gets a reaction, and it's textures, and it's a little dark, so you could stay in that color palette, if you will. It was flat for the frog.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it was awesome. I laugh about it all the time. I used to have a thing on, it was either Instagram or Pinterest, where I did textures. And the frog, I think, was one of the pictures in it. Yes, it was hilarious.
Oh, Carbon. It's okay. Anyways,
next thought.
PETA, we're not supporting dead frogs in this episode.
You can't support them. They've been squished by a car. There's no support left.
Well, you could say, no. It hopped into
Yes.
No, I was trying to make a pun, but it doesn't work. Okay, we already did that. I already did the first question. That was like about your mom. I would imagine. Because the question was, can you share a pivotal moment or a figure in your early life that inspired your journey to photography and creative direction? That sounds like it was all rooted into your mom, and that.
Yeah, there was a lot into that. Some of it, like if you went to the business side or graphic design, some of the people that I worked for when I first got started, that I was good at drawing, but I'm like, okay, I don't know how to design an ad, but I could put the elements in a way that they looked like they belonged rather than,
like a ransom note.
Yes, like a ransom note.
Yes.
Yeah, and or balance-wise, like you could have it could be symmetrical or asymmetrical, but so I would look at things that way. I didn't even learn about photography, the rule of thirds, but I'd always been using it because I didn't know the term. But because of 2D design, I knew that typically I'd want to have a large object in here and some nice white space. That was the biggest.
It just came naturally for you.
Yes, because of art, from painting. And the lighting was drawing or painting, because if you only had one color, you're just getting a line drawing. But if you were wanting to make some dramatic stuff with it, you would have light coming from one direction and shadows and all that good stuff. So,
do you feel, from your perspective, do you feel like people are born with the natural sense of making things just look good without any? Do you feel like that can be the same set for you, or did you have to
I think it can be learned.
Okay.
I'll just take photography as an example. If I look at my photography from 20 years ago, I'm like, you suck. You need to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
But then you look at it every year and you learn, okay, these are what I like to make it look better. And I just move it over here, or I crop it a little different.
Okay.
Whereas nowadays, I can go take 100 pictures and some of them may be similar, but then I can crop them, and it messes me up with editing time, because I'm going, I can make that look like a good picture. I can make that look like a good picture. But I still think any person that picks up a camera today can learn how to do the process with some direction or guidance, because if you can see and you can point and you can look through a little square and you can see what you're going to look, and you go, okay, look, that model looks great, but then they're standing in front of a pile of trash. Okay, we need to move over to a background that's clean to get what we want. It's all those little processes. People used to tell me when I was drawing, and they go, how can you draw? That's so nice. And I go, you can do this. And they're like, I can't draw a straight line. And the smart ass in me goes, have you heard of a ruler? All you have to do is put a ruler on a piece of paper and you can draw a straight line. And they go, well, that's not what I mean. I go, okay, well, let me put it this way. When your mom or dad taught you how to write your name when you were 3, 4, or 5, could you read it? And they're like, no, I can't read it. And I go, okay, well, as long as you're not a doctor, can you read your name now? And they would laugh, because doctors are known for not being able to. Yeah. And they go, yes, you can read my name now. It's nice, and I still write in cursive, some people say. And I go, okay, so you learned the process how to go from a scribble to writing cursive, because you learned that in school. So you were taught the process, and now you might be going from cursive to calligraphy, because you wanted to learn how they did it with the big looping and all that stuff. So you just learn what those things are. And those things, just like when we were little, when I was little, they had a piece of paper that had lines on it, and then they had a halfway point.
Yes.
So
we had
you
to
knew
do that in
that
middle school.
You knew your little letter needed to be this height.
This is the Y.
Yeah.
And then the curve or the loop.
Oh yeah, 100% that. And they don't do that as much as now. You type it in. And
Oh no, my God! That goes back to what we just said earlier. The fact that you're just putting a DocuSign. Oh my God! I just signed that.
Oh yeah. And if I look at my document sign now, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't even pick that font. Why does it do that?
It's so default. There's no personality.
No.
But I mean, other than it's legible.
Yeah.
But
and what's it, X and O's or what? Ones and zeros, and that's why they're reading it. So it knows where that stuff is and it's consistent. But.
So it sounds like we're all going through a endless stage of evolution. How would you describe your photography style to someone? Maybe me.
Style?
How would you describe your work to me?
The joke I do is still with new and prospective clients is I take out of focus, weird angle, candid photos.
Out of focus, weird angle.
With bad lighting.
Okay.
So I give them all those negatives right up front, except for candids, because I love taking candid pictures. Yeah. And they're going, really? And I go, well, what are you needing? Well, we're thinking about this, this, and this. And I say, okay, well, I really don't like the pose shots. But if you like a pose shot with real good lighting, this, this, and this, I recommend you call this person.
Okay.
And I said, because I'm not really into taking that, so you won't get my full attention on it.
Yes.
If you're not wanting to. It's like a give and take conversation.
Okay.
I want to give you what you want and a little bit better by finding out what you want. And if I can't do it, I want to give it to somebody else.
You refer it to somebody else.
And that goes back into that ethical question. Yes, I can take your money from you and give you what I think you want, and it'll be an okay photo. But when I go to talk to the next one, and that might be best friends with the first person that I gave an okay photo, they would say, oh, Jim only does okay photos, I wouldn't use him. Whereas if the next person says, I want to be here holding a ball of fire and doing this, and I'm like, can you hold a ball of fire? Yes. How long can you hold it? Yes. Well, we can do that because I know I can do it. And I think you become more passionate and you have more fun doing what you like to do while you're capturing what the people want to capture. I
agree. I didn't even think about that because subconsciously, you just think about the money. But the moral ethic questions, now that we're on that point, it's hard to say no to things when you want. It's like we don't even focus on the client. We focus, oh my God, easy money. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I've got to pay that power bill or I got to pay that phone bill. So let me go ahead and do this. Well, that is good for the immediate.
Yeah.
At the ad agency, we used to call them utility clients. And they're like, why do you call it a utility clients? Well, if I'm doing work for you and you're wanting me to do something that I think is silly, but you're willing to pay me $500 to do it, and I know that my phone bill and my power bill equals $400, I'll still have $100 left after I do that. And
so you're okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
you're basically tricking yourself. But in the past, we've had clients like that they said, this is what we want. We've always done it this way. And say if it was a newsletter at that time, all you need to do is we're going to take a picture for this to go in these spots. We're going to give you the text that goes in here. And you're going to get it all laid out to send to the printer and get us 1,000 of them. And we'd go, okay. So we knew every month we would have one of those, and we knew that we were going to make X number of dollars, and we just said, okay, that's our phone bill for that month.
Oh, wow.
And so you didn't push the creative element to do more creative stuff because they didn't want it. And they were good with everything that you got, because we would even show them, why don't we change the masthead of the thing or do this? And they're going, that's cool, but we've been doing this for this many years.
That's archaic. Oh, yeah. It's like how do you deal with that?
You deal with it by telling them that they need to look at bringing some youth into the company. And and that's a hard one because that person could be there for 30 years and this is the way, and it's like, okay, I agree. You've been there with 30 years, and what you've been doing is doing well. Are your profit margins still going up, or have they leveled off?
Okay.
You know, is your prospective customer dying off, so they may not be here
not the
still?
same. Yeah.
You know, but the young person that's just turned 21 and is paying their power bill themselves or their phone bill, you need to be going after them because there's more of them coming along, and you want to get them to be a client of yours, you know, for their lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to weigh that. And some of them don't want to do that research. It's like, okay, we know we've had from 50 to 75-year-old people for 10 years, and these new kids are coming in and they're wanting, you know, cheaper prices and fancier, you know, features or something. But we don't want to spend the time on making that happen for them. We want to keep just safe.
They're going to die off, just like what you said.
Yes. And the other ones are going to go, well, my grandma and granddaddy is still using them, and I'm not going to use them because I want the new this that still does that, and, you know, I can tell time on it, you know, or whatever it is.
Well, with the photography style they describe, how do you cater to those that are like, as the older generation start to pass and the new ones come into the picture, no pun intended.
That's pretty good. I like that. I got the picture.
How do you... I did not do that intentionally. But how do you how do you still retain the qualities of your art style or photography style while still reaching to the younger generation?
I think it's one of those things, because back in the day, I would watch VH1 and MTV when it was cool.
Oh, yes.
And you would see all the different photo styles and the different looks of things, and then you would try to emulate some of that.
Yeah.
And then today, it's still the same thing. I joke with people because I'm on Facebook, and anybody under probably 25 or 30 is like, I'm not going to be on there. My mom's on there. Well, I got on there not because my mom was on there. She still has like 8 accounts because she can't remember.
What the what?
Well, she can't remember her
That's
passcode, so it's like she'd make a new one because it was quicker than having to find out where she wrote it down. But anyway, but I loved about Facebook at the beginning when my relatives that I'd never talked to for 20 years got on there and did a friend request, and it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And now the younger generation is going to TikTok or Snapchat or more on Instagram. I don't see the interaction as much on Instagram that I do on Facebook. You know, the photo shoot I had today, I had 3 ladies come up to me and she goes, Jim, I really love your photography. I see you at all the events. And I'm like, I don't know you. And she goes, oh no, we're Facebook friends. And I'm like, okay, well good. I go, next time you're on Facebook, say hi, this is, I think it was Heather. I said, say this is Heather. I saw you today at the Symphonia event, and it's nice to talk to you in person.
Yeah.
Which is scary, but cool, you know. But then if you were to tell, you know, a 30-something, you know, they go, well, I can't be friends with him. He's old. And I'm like, well, you don't know me yet then, because that was that one statement that, you know, my bio says that my wife wrote, that he may be strange, weird, you know, something, but get to know him first.
Yeah.
And it ends up being that way because there are weirdos out there, there's strange people out there and doing stuff, especially in the photography field. I'll be the first to tell you, if your daughter's wanting to get into modeling and you're their parent, you be on every shoot that you're going to be with them on because you can't trust anybody, you know, and that's male or female, you know. It's scary but true. And then in the same vein, you know, if you are a model, take 2 of your friends with you. And if that photographer says, no, we only want you.
Red flag.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Flags up and turn the other way and say, thank you for playing, you know. But that's a whole nother.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Remember, your mom and your dad told you stranger danger, right?
Exactly.
This we're not cursing you. That thing applies to that. Well, that is such an important thing to. Do you think people talk about that often or not? Does it feel like it's?
I'm in some groups on Facebook and other things that they do collaborative events where
Yes.
6 photographers and 10 models
Yeah.
get together, and everybody takes a chance shooting at each one of them, and to try to emulate whatever their style is with that model, and then you end up sharing your images to those
Yeah.
people, guys and girls, for their modeling portfolios, which is great. You get to, as a photographer, you get to experiment doing something you don't normally do. Say if you just want to shoot black and white for that event,
Yeah.
it's fine. And it's a good thing. But some of those groups in the Facebook posts that I've seen, they said, oh, don't interact with that person. And it's like no one knows what that person is until they give their, I guess, review of that person said they weren't going to do this unless I went to this location, and they said I didn't want to do that. And then someone else says, yes, I was approached by that person too. And then the next thing they do is report them to Facebook and say, please keep an eye out on this, and this, which is great. It should be more of that. So,
How do you deal with the reputation? Because it sounds like as long as you hold it in a good way or a bad way, it literally will stay with you.
It will. I usually tell people, we were talking about Megan earlier.
Yeah.
I have friends that are friends with Megan and friends that are friends with me, and this just happened recently. There was one new model on one of the groups, Pensacola Creatives group, and said that she wanted to do a photo shoot if anybody's interested in doing trade for photos. And I sent her a message. I said, you don't know me from anybody, but if you're interested, I'm interested in doing some fashion stuff once it got warmer. Well, she responded back. She goes, well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it, but that would be great. And I said, well, this is what I was thinking. We'll go out to Grand Boulevard and shoot some fashion. Here's a couple sample photos. But feel free to bring a friend, definitely.
Okay.
And if you have any mutual friends that we are, check with them to see. They can tell you about me.
Basically.
And Megan was one of her friends, and I don't know if she did. But, but then the girl said, yes, let's do something once it warms up. So to me, I'm glad the girl is being leery about a person, especially a guy, shooting pictures for them.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen in a shoot over in Pensacola where you had the mom there and the daughter there, and it was a trade for photo shoot, and you're shooting pictures. I was one of the photographers at it, shooting pictures, and these drunk people were on the beach, and they started screaming, pedophile, pedophile. Oh yeah, it was insane. But the guy that was running the event ended up calling the police. Police came down, and they moved their thing, and they had like 12 bottles of alcohol.
Oh,
and these guys, and the policeman ended up telling him, goes, sir, you and your whole party needs to leave now, or we're going to get to take you to downtown to the jail.
What?
Oh yeah, it's insane. But, and I'm talking to the mom, I'm going, is the person blind? It's like photographer, model. And we had everything from, there's like a 4-year-old boy up to like a 50-year-old guy, and they're all wanting to be models. And it's like, if you don't see what's going on, you're the problem. It was weird.
Situation awareness, please.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, to summarize that point, make sure you, if you're a model, make sure you check in who you know before you even go to that photographer.
Yep.
Second, be careful.
Yes.
Be careful.
Yeah, do your research.
Yeah, see? Jim said it right here. Research. Anyways, let's put the focus back on you. Over 30 years as a creative director, how has your role and approach evolved with the changing landscape of advertising and media? And what are some of the few things that stayed the same throughout your career, regardless of how things turned out?
I remember when I was younger. Over 30 years? Did I say that somewhere? It's been a couple.
It was in your bio, actually, on your website.
I better edit that. I'll laugh because I used to lie and tell everybody that I was 37.
Yeah.
And I still do sometimes. But my mom stopped me and she goes, Jimmy, you need to quit saying you're 37. She goes, I know you're older than that. I go, but Mom, you're only 50.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, okay. Well, then can you at least tell them you're 42? And I get the biggest kick out of that. But what was the question again?
The question is basically, how did you change your role? What was your role like in your approach as a creative director in the advertising and media? And how has that changed throughout over the years, basically?
Well, the change, a lot of it's still the same.
Okay.
Basically, as a creative director, you're either overseeing your copywriters
Yeah.
and your graphic designers and photographers, depending on what I was involved in. That's become a quicker job because if you've got a team of people that's working on a project, and this one's getting done, this one's getting this done, but you already know this is the look that this person gives you. This is the copy that they typically, and that all of that's right for the client that you're working with.
Right.
Whereas things that have changed since then, when social media popped up, one of my pet peeves is that all of a sudden there was social media experts everywhere. And I'm like...
Social influencers too.
Oh, influencers. Well, influencers just, to me, that's the same thing, but, hi, I'm Jim. Buy this from me because I'm Jim. That to me, that's not right. And as far as a social media expert, with the different changing environment of it every day, you can't, one person, if you have 20 people or 10 people, you may be able to say we have a social media expert team because that person can be monitoring TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
That person can be doing what's coming up next for the 12-year-olds that are going to be on, whether or not they get permission from their moms or not. And so all that is constantly changing. So one person coming to you and saying, hey, $5,000 a month, I'll cover all your social media and we'll take care of it and we'll do 2 or 3 posts and we'll make sure you get likes. And if you need more Instagram followers, I'll just write another check for $100 and we can get you 10,000 of them that aren't real. Things like that have happened. So it's always been, what's the proof is in the pudding? I don't know what that means, other than once you taste it, you know that it's good, is where I think it's coming from. So if you do things traditionally, even though that you're using the current media, you're still going to get those results. People are going to follow you. You can't do a yellow page ad now because there's no yellow pages. So you're finding those types of things. You make sure that your phone number is on your website and it's on your social media if you're wanting people to contact you. If you don't want them to contact you, you don't put it on your Facebook page. So you still have to look at all those variables of what you're wanting to do with your campaign. Am I wanting to get people to go to my Instagram page or to watch my YouTube video and subscribe? And
well, what do you think they're doing wrong based on what you know is successful?
The influencers, they weren't doing anything. I want to say they weren't doing anything wrong. They were doing things that are unethical because it was more about I have a pretty face, not me, them, and if you do this and pay me this, I'll make sure that they see this pen. Oh, wait, I showed it in front of my face. I don't need to do that. I need to tell you that you need it, and you need to agree with what I'm thinking. And it's like, you're telling me that your self-promotion is going to make my product jump off the shelves when I don't think it's going to. And if it does, well, if my name was Kim Kardashian, and she thought it was going to jump off the shelves, it would for her base because she told them to. And she's already sold something to them. But if I'm just have a number of followers and I think you're going to get it because all my followers are 16-year-old female blonde-haired or red-haired, you may not. So
it sounds like they're way too focused on statistics and just trying to get the really?
They're trying to get their face out there the most.
Well, one of the things that I love what you said was earlier in the conversation, you said that the photo of the Santa Claus and, the hand of the mom, what was the equivalent of that? You said that was your favorite, that was one of your favorite words.
It was one of my emotional ones,
Is there an equivalent for that, but in advertising and media?
Well, I think we talked about judging awards before.
Yes.
Back when I was 25, working at the first agency I worked for, I started looking at what's winning these awards and stuff. And it always had been big budget clients because they had the dollars to do the research and get the talent and all of that together. Well, there was one ad, I forget which, it was an Alabama town, but it was 2 inches wide by 2 inches tall newspaper ad. The ad only said, "Aw, shucks." And
What?
Aw, shucks, and it was for an oyster bar in Alabama, and because you shuck oysters. And yeah. And if you knew anything about oysters, when you saw "Aw, shucks," you just giggled or smiled, and then you looked at it, and it was so and so's. I don't remember the name, but it's only been 55 years ago, but 50 years ago, but not even that long. But it had their name, address, and phone number, and that small ad, and it ended up winning a national award because it was so creative, and budget-wise, they didn't spend probably $20 to get that ad to run in the newspaper. Yeah. So,
Wait, something so simple but so
efficient.
Do you think that specific style of work or art is so lost because everyone is just so focused on getting your face and they overcomplicate with so many visuals, whereas something just as simple as that? Shucks.
It's like you said, getting complicated with the visuals. To me, I relate it to logo design.
Yeah.
A lot of people make their logo design, or they get their logo design from the T-shirt shop that they're wanting to sell T-shirts.
Yeah.
And so this 12 by 12 inch logo looks great on a T-shirt, maybe multicolors, but then if they bring it down to a 1 inch square, that's the main point. 1 inch square, you may not be able to read the name of the place. You may not be able to figure out what it is. It'd be like looking at a quarter and going, okay, what is this guy's face? What did he do? All you see is his face. You can't read the type around the coin. Yeah. So we used to say that and it's not even because of smoking.
Yeah.
You can't even, we used to say if your logo looked good on a matchbox.
Oh, that's
which was basically a 1 inch square or 1.5 inch square. If you could read it there and kind of feel the feel for the company, then you've got a good start for a logo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's, it's the same way with you look at Nike or, any of the, IBM or any of those people. IBM didn't have a computer in the background.
IBM?
Okay, I'll use
telecommunications company?
That sounds like they were a computer company first, and then Apple came out and started competing against them, and then you recognize the Apple now more than you do.
Oh wow! See, I'm glad you mentioned that because IBM, like, who is that? Yeah. But then when you mention Apple, and then you have that simple logo, Apple's like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
What was IBM's logo?
It was an I, a B, and an M, and then I think it had a couple of lines underneath it.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's how
I want to say it was integrated business computing or something like that.
Do you think that looks memorable to you versus the Apple logo?
Well, it didn't tell the story, but it told the, I would think that their company probably started with the full name of what it meant. And then once they became known for selling their computers, then it shrunk to that.
They shortened it.
Yeah.
That doesn't ring a bell as much as Apple does.
Yeah. Well, if you looked at any logo from through the years, the processes of how they've changed it, it's usually to make it more concise and eliminate the clutter, so you see it right away.
So the simplicity it's still somehow out of all this noise. Simplicity is king.
Yep, 100%.
Is there? I'm assuming that's the same way in photo. Just don't do too much. Sometimes just a little bit of adjustments and it makes the whole entire photo.
It's like art. You don't overthink it. It's like knowing when to start when you're painting a painting. Yeah. Or not start, stop.
Stop. Okay.
Starting's easy. You got a blank canvas, but it's not that easy because you still have to slap that first piece of paint. And you're going, I screwed up. Get another canvas, or you just continue until it comes out.
But the stopping part is just, you want to, you think there's something better, but it's already good enough.
Yeah. Well, it's to the point of this has got an impact. I think if I do some more, I'm going to muddy it up or, weaken the
It's going to weaken the whole image. Well, speaking of which, in both media advertising and photography, were there any people that you looked up to as far for inspiration?
Every one of the graphic designers in the graphic design magazine world, and in your a lot of it was through magazines. You'd go through Ad Week and you'd look and see what the new creative was and what they were doing things for, and you'd go, wow, how did they get that process? and then you do some research on it, and you'd find out that it started out as this little idea in the brainstorming area. And then they said, okay, now we got to make that a little bit better and add some more words to get it going, and then make it happen. A friend of mine, which worked at the first agency that I worked for, we had hired him as a art director and a really good illustrator. But he ended up leaving that agency and working for a crosstown agency.
Okay.
And it was good because the agency we were both working for, ended up quitting paying their media bills, which is something you can't not do. So he ended up hiring me over at that agency afterwards. Well, when he left that agency, he went back up to St. Louis, where he was from. And you've heard of Budweiser. Well, him and his sister, he went to work for the agency that had that. And the agency had just lost the account. It was like in end of November, middle of December.
Okay.
They lost the account, but they had an ad that was going on the Super Bowl. Well, he was the creative director on that account, and he had another friend that worked at that agency who was the copywriter.
Okay.
Well, Michael and his sister growing up, they had one of those little inflatable pools in the backyard that were so big around, and they'd fill it up, and they ended up putting some lights around it and some grass in it just because they thought it was cool, and they were going to put fish or stuff in it. Well, the frogs came there. And
now we're going back to this. Is there a dead frog at the end of this story?
No, there's not a dead frog in this one. Well, he thought it was cool because he could hear the ribbiting going on at night. Well, that's when the Budweiser frogs, he came up with that concept that you need to have these frogs, 3 of them sitting on it, and the first one goes Bud, the other one goes Wise.
It all was from the frogs?
Yep, they got that concept from the frogs when he was younger. So it told that story to him, and he thought, this is how I could relate it to this alcohol, which won tons of awards. He got recognized for it, but the other agency was the one that continued it on because they had lost the business. But Budweiser, yeah.
With the frogs?
With the frogs saying it. Research that one. You'd get a kick out of it.
What the heck? I did not know that.
And his friend that was the copywriter got credit for the copywriting, which was Budweiser.
So all the things that we see that are like, very high value company, it sometimes some of them you don't realize that it just come from something so simple and so mundane.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, and it's insane. When we saw we had asked him, and he goes, "Yeah, we lost the business, but they still asked about some stuff, and it's like they tried to do some more stuff, and some of it was funny, and some of it wasn't, but it was one that he definitely has in his portfolio."
Okay, so when I'm gonna go shower, I'm gonna pay attention to the water.
You just wait. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great brand right there.
Yeah, you pay attention. To me, that's what creatives are.
Really?
They see things that other people don't notice or take notice of. Because it's like we're sitting in here, and I look over there, and there's nice shadows on that column over there. I'm going, that would be cool to have someone just sitting there with a little light on the bottom, going into to their face, so it'd be moody but not dark. So you just see these things, and you try to figure out how you can use them in your next project or something. Or you just write them down in a book and go, okay, I'm brain dead right now. Let me figure out what I can do. And you come thumb the book. Oh, I remember this. Let's try this.
Yeah. Okay, that's a bit of your creative process. You just look for little things, and then you just use it for the next.
Well, in photography, it's like knowing site, locations to shoot stuff. You can write down in a notebook and say, hey, I know that the beach is usually nice here at this time of year because the sun sets over the Gulf, not over the city, things along those lines. Or, you can go in the fall to any of the malls when it's not crowded, and you can shoot fashion stuff and just get permission with the people that own it. And, your set design's already done, and you just have fun.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about how she got in it or how she did it. So the listener will experience that. And then if she has a copy of it or the location on the web for it, and say, hey, go look at this. It'll answer some of those questions that you have. And that will help that person out.
Yeah, and also I wanted to, with Summer, there was one thing that I realized halfway of the conversation was, I realized that I really wanted to break this trope of, oh, models are hot, blah, blah, blah. That's all they are.
Yeah.
And then
Models are professionals.
Yes. But my favorite part that happened midway was when she started going about, Kino, I love nerdy movies. I loved it. And then when I started making the connections, she said, oh, I love Lord of Rings. I love all this and this and that. And then when she connected it to her desire of being an actor, actress, and then connecting that to the modeling, it just all connects into one dot. And that being able to break beyond that specific typical stereotype of a hot model, I'd love it when that happens.
Well, and to me, I would tell her, listen, you're your own person. You're you. Anybody can be a model. I said, I can be a model.
Yeah.
I won't be the same model like you are because it's a different thing. But your personality is going to outshine other people that look just like you once you project it. And if you're not projecting it, you might get beat out by someone next to you that looks just like you that's projecting it.
Yeah.
My wife told me today coming up here, she was still a little tipsy. She goes, Jim, I didn't get to read what you were going to say. And I go, well, because I didn't get to write it down and give it to you. And she goes, just be concise. Don't ramble on. Just say, I go, well, I know I ramble when I get talking and get excited about something.
Yeah.
But to me, in this kind of give and take thing, it's like you're feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
So you ask a question, I give you a response that triggers you to go this way versus the way we were thinking about or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just cool. And to me, if you're concerned about what you're going to say, you tend to screw up.
Yes.
If you're not concerned and you just let it come from here, then it's the real you, and it's like, well, they're going to love you or they're going to hate you, but you're going to get what you give them.
And it's the, bro, screw the perfect version if you like.
Oh yeah, well,
I want the raw, real.
I don't think anybody's perfect. If you're perfect, then I joke with, I don't know if you know Michael Booney. He shoots,
Boo Media.
Yeah, Boo Media. I love him. We shot today at the event.
Wait, today?
Yeah, well, he was shooting the video and I was shooting stills. And I tell him, he goes, why don't you shoot more real estate photography? I go, well, it really doesn't excite me. It's one of those things that, yes, it'll pay some bills, but I don't want to spend that much time making a thing that's getting ready to be sold for somebody for the amount of money that they're going to pay me on it to make it look like a Barbie house. And that it starts looking over processed.
Yes.
Where you don't see any shadows in there. It looks like, well, how come there's warm light there and no warm light on that wall because they color corrected that side and there's no shadows? I'm like, do real people live in here or is this an illustration? And he goes, yeah, but that's what they're buying. I go, I understand that. If you're selling $1 million house, you want to see the most
beautiful
immaculate beauty
parts
thing with rose petals floating in the air. But that's not real. So that switches to that ethical question again. It's like, okay, if you make it too good, like if I shot this $100,000 home in Fort Walton versus the $1 million home in South Walton, and this one had scratches on the wall and this and this.
Which
and
one,
this.
the $1 million or the
100,000?
Okay.
And I went in and fixed in Photoshop all those little dots.
It's a lie.
And I looked out the window, and instead of seeing the trash cans, I made it to where you saw trees or stuff that you can do. That's not real.
That's leading on.
Oh, leading on 100%. Because if you went in there and the outlet you see is matching that outlet over there, and there's a hole in the wall here, there's something wrong with this picture because it's not the same one you took.
That's is there, what's the right term for that? I mean, rather than lying and
it's unethical. It's forgery. So it's you're forging the look of your picture. So yes, it is. But I don't know. That's the reason I don't shoot stuff, because it is too easy for someone to say, can you fix this? I go, yes, we can, but all I like to do is, get the line straight, because you're getting distortion when you're shooting wide angles.
Yeah.
So if you can straighten up some lines to where it looks real, and that's what they're going to see. But because you wouldn't want to see
the curved walls on the side.
Exactly.
You're in a Willy Wonka house now.
Right.
Anyways, we just took a quick break. We are almost done with this interview. Don't worry, guys. This will not be the last time that you see Jim Clark. I'm gonna make sure he comes back for another episode.
Uh-oh.
Are you open to that?
I'm open to anything.
There we go. See? All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And where can people find you, by the way?
You can find me on my website, which is iamjimclark.com.
JimClark.com.
You can find me on Instagram at iamjimclark.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of consistent. And you can't find me on TikTok yet, even though my stepdaughter says I should be on it. And I'm like, you're crazy. I'm on LinkedIn as Jim Clark. And you keep going. Facebook, I think it's something else. I want to say ad3.com, but Jim Clark, if you search for that and see all of this, and my wife sitting here, you'll end up.
You'll find it. Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to get into. Can you tell us about the Amuse magazine? So, how we met was, I think it was a shoot in Seoul House.
Yeah, fashion shoot.
Yes. One of the things that I found was impressive was the magazine, which is Amuse, and I'm not gonna take the lead. I would like you to go ahead and tell the audience why and what is Amuse magazine.
Well,
share us the stories.
It's really exciting.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Do you remember that little thing where everybody had to stay at home because of COVID, I think it was? COVID-19? Yes. That happened, and it was real. And I was in my living room and looking at my computer going, because my clients weren't having their events, and I wasn't shooting very much photography or doing graphic design work. And then my wife was sitting behind me making money working for the company she works for out of New York. So I said, well, I better do something to be productive or I'm going to get kicked out of the house. So other than starting to make her breakfast, lunch, dinner, go get groceries, all that fun stuff, I decided, well, I've got a lot of pictures and I've done a lot of events and I like some of it and I like sharing it. And since I was into digital printing, because I had done a couple of books before, I said, let me try doing that. And so I did the first one with existing pictures that I had, wrote some stories, and this one is the 12th one I've done, which is... Show it. It's got a beautiful model that's a real nice lady. But then it's also got, pictures on the back, which you can't see very well, which is kind of funny, but... where is it? It was this little kitty just passed.
Wait, is that Kennison?
Huh?
On Kenny Kennison? He was at the...
This guy?
Yeah, wasn't he at the Mexican restaurant that we were at?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know where all these people are from, but...
What? You don't know how to...
But, Wes is an artist locally.
Yes.
Basically, I put in here that it's a publications of things I like, love, and want to share with others. I hope you like it too, but if you don't, that's okay. And that leaves me room to complain about stuff when I want to complain about stuff, and they say I really don't like it, and I go, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I started doing these, for one, knowing that after COVID was over, we'll be getting back out in the world.
Yes.
And so I jokingly said, because to produce one, other than the time, which is just on me, it took about $15 to get one produced and shipped to your house. So I call it a $15 business card.
Okay.
So if someone has an interest in my photography and they want to see samples, but they're too lazy to go to the website or something, and I'm talking to them in person and they're like, yeah, we really want to do this. We're thinking about doing a festival. We need some photographers to do this.
Yeah.
And this. I'm like, okay, well, I've got a Seabreeze Jazz Festival edition. I can give you that and you can see the samples of work for what you're needing.
Yeah.
And they'll go, oh, that's cool. How much do you charge? And then you can go into the details and negotiate and all that good stuff. But after doing a couple of them, I found that it's more of a passion, creative release of while I have downtime in doing what I'm normally doing, or waiting to get approval on ads that I've already done or brochures or whatever the case may be, I can, instead of just sitting there doing nothing, I can work on another copy. So I decided I would do 4 a year. And people always ask, well, what do you do? Quarterly? Do you do one in this month, one this? I go, no, I do 4 a year. I may do one in January.
Is that like quarterly?
No, well, it could be quarterly if you're doing it.
Well, I mean, there's like...
with equal spaces.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I may do one in January.
Okay.
And then do one in October, November, December.
Oh,
and there's 4 a year.
That's a lot of space.
Well, yeah.
Dang.
Because
okay,
it's a self-promotion piece, but I think my picture's in maybe one or two at the most. So it's self-promotion in a piece that you're promoting your work rather than yourself. Other than, people say, well, I like your writing on this article. And if I wrote it, it's great. If a friend of mine wrote it, I say, well, that was, my wife. Those kinds of things. But it's so much fun, and it's an easy icebreaker when you're meeting somebody. What do you do? And if you have one with you, you can go, well, this is what I just did this last month, and here's a studio over in Pensacola, and I went and did some behind the scenes and had fun because they were shooting video, and they were setting up all these great lights, and I was getting to shoot over the video guys and get cool, stills. And it helped Megan to
the Studio One
to help promote her. Yeah. So that's where it came about. I used it for, I've got one edition that has pictures that we were talking about dementia with my mom earlier. Pictures from all of that, where I found all these pictures that they were color, but the color in the photos had faded. So I photographed them with my iPhone and put them in the computer, and then just went crazy with the saturation. And so all these pictures are like intense, colors. And they're family pictures that Mom probably took when she was younger. And so I would show them to her now. She goes, oh, I remember this. That's when the three of you were in that yellow bus. And the bus is like bright yellow now. And so it was fun for me to see what would happen in doing that. And plus I learned more about Lightroom at that time. So I was able to, do the color.
It sounds like this was your, for the lack of a better word, a vessel for you to use as a playground to, keep the creative spark going. Because, whenever we have a space in our work, and it's just, where's the next stop? You're gonna lose if you get too complacent with that. So I think that
you don't have that rhythm going. It's like you got to catch back up to get it going again.
So that was a way for you to keep on your toes. Was there one thing that you learned that surprised you throughout that process of making a magazine? One thing that really surprised you?
The easiest one is that if you don't get an editor or you don't have a friend edit, that Grammarly is not always correct if you use Grammarly. And I found when I did another book that I used the word "that" way too many times. But I guess it would. But with this, I always go back to that statement of, if you like it, that's okay. And my wife will end up finding some mistakes in ones that she didn't edit. And so I'll say, well, I meant to do that. And we used to say in advertising all the time, if you found a typo in your ad, we would say that was for marketing purposes. We wanted to find out who could catch it. Total bogus, but everybody would laugh when you said that, and they'd say, it's already corrected on the next one. So if it ran again. And they typically wanted a discount on their last ad. And I'm going, well, you got responses on it because you've already told me that you found something in it that you didn't think was in there. I go, there was a period missing or whatever.
Such a tiny thing, but it just has such a major consequence to, and especially in that world.
I would tell people that if you didn't study English when you were growing up, start doing it, because you never know, you might get into advertising and need to write. Because my grammar is not there.
Okay, going back to AI, ChatGPT can now start writing that for you. So where's the point in doing that?
That is true, but my first writing experience was just recently with AI. I did a Facebook post and I said, one thing that I was going to do got canceled. So I said, I'm looking to photograph something tonight because some things have changed. And can you give me any suggestions? What should I shoot? What or who should I photograph? And then I said, I saw this feature on Facebook that said AI. And you click the AI button and it takes what you just wrote, and you can get a short version, a long version, or a professional version. And so first I clicked professional and it just didn't even look right. So I just went to a long version next. And it was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 sentences. Well, yes, the golden hour would be a great time to take pictures, and you should stroll around the woods doing this. And it was like, this person is, drunk or something weird, under the influence of something other than reality, which I guess AI is kind of like that. But I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. But that's my experience with AI on that part. I have, Grammarly gets my grammar better.
Okay.
And even though I don't think straight all the time, it's just like spelling. But now it's so fast, it'll check your spelling for you a lot quicker.
Well,
and your grammar.
where you were going with that was you were trying to give me the answer on whether AI will replace the need of having to learn English. That's what we were. That's where that question was.
It will do some molding, and it may grow into molding more. I still don't think it's going to replace the human touch or the style.
Well, kind of like a drunk AI.
Yes.
Go to the morning, go to the beach.
That frog's not dead. It's just laying there still.
Okay, so we're still safe for now.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're safe, other than if it's, some photo editors may not think they are, because you can now put in AI your style of the way you shoot, and then you upload all your pictures, and then it just clicks it, and it does all those photos in your style and lighting and coloring and everything. So it'll affect it that way, but I think it's going to affect your monetization. You'll make less money if it's doing it and you're charging by the hour.
How would you be able to tell?
Well, then that would bring the ethics part.
This conversation is all about ethics, guys.
Yes.
Go on.
If you want to lie to your client and say, yes, it took me 100 hours to do 100 photos, and they all look the same lighting and stuff, and there's AI out there now that, how come I can do it on my Instagram post just like that? Well, you're going to have some issues, because you got some explaining to do?
well, wait. Before the advent of AI, though, we have some workflow. We got to a point where, okay, there's a sentiment that I agree with. The faster you work, the more punished you get. Okay? Now, going to the moral ethics. We perfect our craft. We get to a point where, okay, this is going to take me, 2 hours?
Right.
But we don't necessarily tell the clients how long we're working on it. So where is that?
That becomes a billing and estimate thing. I will do this job for you for $1,500, and I don't know for sure how long it'll take, but my product is this good that it's worth the $1,500. Whereas if I do that, 10 more times, instead of it being worth $15,000, it may be worth $7,500 or something, if that's what you want to bill them. If they can't get that same product from your competition, then you're okay. But it's like now, if you want to buy a Picasso, and if it's the original, and you're going to spend millions of dollars. Whereas if you go to AI and say, hey, I'd like somebody with their eye looking left when their other eye is looking straight at you, and it's got a pineapple on its head, and it's in the style of Picasso, you can get that for $20. And if you're happy with that, you can blow it up on a wall and use your printer, and paste it together, or get, it depends on what you value it for.
That's fair. And then on top of that, it's like, how we've worked so much to get to our process where it's so efficient, but we tell our clients, this will take me, a week? Then we're done, when we're already done with ours. Do you think that's unethical or what?
I think it's unethical.
Really?
Yeah. Because you know the truth, and you're not relaying the truth to your client. Okay, let me rephrase it a different way. When we first started making ads and you didn't have computers and stuff,
yes,
you would draw a square in the size of the ad that you wanted to do. You would put paste on the back of this thing, stick it here, put this here, stick it here, and it actually took that amount of time.
Okay.
Once that became computerized, if you did that same thing for the same price, you would have competitors or anybody that had a computer that was faster than yours saying, okay, I can do that same job for half the money.
Okay.
And the kid in college, I just learned how to do that yesterday. I can do that for $40. And they're charging you $1,200. Well, yes, they will use that kid for that $40.
Yeah.
And if it consistently looks good for the next one they've got, you're out of all your money. And that kid's only making $40 and realizing that he should have or she should have valued that at $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's the hard thing. That's that whole education thing. Today, like photography, if I say I'm going to shoot a portrait of you, a headshot, and it's going to be $125.
Okay.
And you say, okay. And then if I say next time, it's going to be $500.
Okay.
And they're saying, what's the difference? Well, the difference is I was using $1,500 worth of equipment and lenses and all that good stuff. And the next one now I'm using $7,500 worth. So my tools to make that end product that should look better than the first one are more on my end. So I have to pass those on to my clients. So you can do that.
Okay.
And it's the same way in video. It's like, okay, if you're only using one light or two lights versus a beauty dish and this and this and this and gels and this and the staff that are doing makeup, this, it's going to be more expensive than you saying, okay, you look good. Let me get a little powder in to get that shine off and take it. So this should cost less than that unless they're happy with the pricing. Yeah.
And also the easy way to even leverage the price that you want to get is building your personal brand, because sure, you can get the zigzag kind of like same result from other photographers that are charging really expensive work. But if there's a client that, let's say, no, I don't want that photographer, I want Jim Clark. I don't care about the price. I want the Jim Clark quality. It's like, how did you get started in building your brand to get those clients that actually just want you, not the price?
It becomes a customer service type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a turnaround, because like you said today, everybody wants it quick. You can go shoot stuff, say if you shoot an event, and I'll just use that as an example because I have some photographers that get upset with me when I turn around my work for an event the same day that I shot it.
Okay.
Because they want to have a week or a couple of days to do some good editing. Well, and I tell them this straight up. I'm going, if I'm shooting an event that I'm not getting paid for, but I like doing it, I will do a quick edit and deliver it on Facebook if they want it that way, or send it to them and say thank you for your business. If you ever need photography done and you have a budget for it, let me know. I'd be glad to.
Okay.
They look at that as, oh, he really wants to work with us. He did stuff for free. It looks good. It is not polished like I might get with this person. But since we didn't pay them, maybe they didn't spend as much time with them. And then when they say they want me, it's usually because my personality is, joking around. And it's like, hey, listen, one of the ladies today, a couple of the ladies, I took pictures of these three younger ladies in front first with these two guys that were, they must have been dancers in another thing, because they had suspenders on, no shirts, long pants, So they were taking pictures with them. I took a picture with them, and then the three ladies behind them said,
We're at the recording. Thank you so much for doing that. We just had a bit of a technical issue, but we are okay. Okay, we have another technical issue now. I am going to flip the screen of the Epic 3. You were taking photos of the ladies.
You were talking about if someone were to pick you to do something and why would they use Jim Clark. And I was using the example of, like today, there was three younger ladies and two of the people that were part of the event going on that, they had suspenders on, no shirts on, and long pants. And
might be strippers.
And I don't know if they were that or not, but they could have been. But they were pretty fun, and took pictures of them. And then the next ladies in line were a little older, and they go, "You're not going to take pictures of the older ladies?" I go, "If you can show me the older ladies where they're at, I'll go take pictures of them. But I want to take pictures of you next." And they're like, "Okay."
Okay, just right at that moment.
So it's just a matter of realizing what's going on in the situation and saying, okay, she thinks that I'm only taking pictures of young people and they're having fun just like the other ones. So the next thing I did was got them with the two guys and took their picture as well. And it's like smoothed it out. And then they're like, well, do you guys do these pictures all the time? You know, we'd love to get pictures. And I was like, you want to call me? Just call me. Look, you know, talk to Symphonia. They'll give you my contact information. So,
Well, the thing that you said, you know, you provide all that customer service. It's great, but it also kind of opens the door of being taken advantage of. So how do you protect yourself from that?
You get taken advantage of.
Okay.
And you go. I
how can we
learned
prevent
from
that though?
Oh yeah, I've gotten taken advantage of many times, and you know, I've even had shoots where they said, yeah, we're going to pay you cash at the thing, and not a problem. And at the end of the thing, they pay you in cash, and it's half of what you thought it was going to be.
Wow.
Because you've talked about it. And you just say, okay, well, I learned a lesson with that. And, you know, you take your money and go buy something to eat for dinner and say that was a fun night. But you don't typically call those people back when you want to do something.
Yeah.
And then they contact you and you go, I'm sorry, we're not actually doing those types of things anymore. And they assume that it's photography and it's dealing with people that aren't paying you. So, and it's hard because the hard part is when you enjoy doing it and you had a good shoot and you got some nice images and you're like, man, I wish I could get some more of that cute little kid on the motorcycle with his dad or whatever the case may be. But as a business owner, you have to look at it the other way. It's like, would you rather not do anything and, you know, not get, you know, taken advantage of? Or would you want to get taken advantage and take a risk? Or do you need to look at your, you know, contract? If you have a contract, I don't use a lot of those because I'm old school. It's like, shake your hands. It's going to be this much money. Yeah. Unless it's a big project.
Okay.
Because the way I look at it, if people don't want to work with you, they'll find a way to get out of anything. And, you know, even if you have a contract, they're going, yes, but we didn't mean everything in there. Thought they were saying this.
Okay.
And the amount of money that you spend in court is going to cost you more than the amount that you lost. So, and that one's usually a hard thing to swallow. But, you know, there's people out there that take advantage of you. And there's just as many people out there that want to pay twice as much as you're charging to get your work. You just have to find a way to get to those people, you know?
The worst part is being taken advantage of and then letting that derail your desire of wanting to become better. It's just...
Well, you got to look at it as it's not something you did. It's something they did to you.
That's fair, but then when that happens, you're in this mindset of shit. I should have known better. You start beating yourself up for it. So
Well, then you write up the contract the next time, and then they have it and they sign it and they still do it, and you go, oh well, that piece of paper wasn't worth the ink that's on it, you know, and you can say, okay, well, I'll have to take it to a small claims court or something.
Yeah.
But then you go do that process once, and you're like, okay, well, I spent 2 hours down at a courthouse trying to get this done, and they said, well, you both are liable for it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
There's instances like that. And in my business, I said, well, forget it. We just won't do business with them anymore. If you can't afford to pay your bills, which they don't want to hear that because they know they can, then we shouldn't be working with you. That comes back to that speculative work for people.
Yeah.
It's like if I do an ad for you and then you like it the way it looks and the whole concept and everything, and then you give it to the people that have been doing your ads before and they copy it, you know, that's just giving away your work.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, and it's BS. But
I know, but giving away free work also makes it harder for the competition to ask for what they're selling for. Because when you have people that are just getting everything that they can they're basically like bottom of the barrel. It makes it harder for someone like you to charge what you want to charge. But then when you have so much of them doing that goes against what you're trying to achieve. Well, how are you?
The speculative work you should be doing now would be, say if you were really into Nike shoes and you wanted to do work for Nike, and you knew you were just a one-person shop.
Yeah.
But I still want to do work for Nike. Well, you would contact Nike and find out what their process is. You would do your speculative work and contact the people that you would know have those ethics, back to the ethics again, and say, hey, I'd like to show you this. It's something I'm thinking about, and if you'd like to use it, you know, we can negotiate later.
Yeah.
And with them being a company that they are, they don't want to be, talked bad about
Yeah.
from doing stuff like that. So you'd have more of a chance to get what you want to make for it, and possibly even more by just being straight up and going straight for what you want to do versus, say, a new company that was doing something that just wanted to get started and didn't want to pay anything. It's all a game. Remember that game of life thing where you twist the thing?
Well, sometimes there are some people out there that constantly get the wrong ones. So, it's really rough
And
for
none
them.
of them go directly to jail and collect $200.
Wow. Okay. We're almost done here, so we're going to go with a few more questions, and then we're going to get you out of here, Jim. Okay? All right? Okay. So, as the owner of Clark & Company, yes, I looked this up. All right? What's your philosophy or approach that you believe that has been the key, number one, the key to success to your agency and longevity in the business?
Well, the funny thing when I saw that question, it was like, that was my agency back in 1992.
Okay.
And I don't push it anymore.
Really? Okay.
Just because some people that know me from the advertising world, still use my services. And plus, when we were first, I think we had like 7 people on staff, and you would get one of those little things, hurricanes would come through here and put all your clients out of business for a few months.
Yeah.
And your agency would pay their employees until you ran out of money to not be able to pay them anymore until they got on their business.
Yeah.
So we had one hurricane that happened, and we reduced our staff by half. Well, if I had 7 people, it was a little more than half. But then we decided that we were going to try for New Orleans, more business that way, and started getting some business and doing it over there. And then Katrina came, and that hit our business.
Oh my
that we were doing
gosh.
work over there. So after that, I said, okay, yes, it's great to have a full staff on here, but stressful it is. And I said, from here on out, and that's probably been, 15 years, I jokingly say that there's only 3 people working for my agency, and it's me, myself, and I. So, and usually you get a laugh like that, and then they say, well, what do you do if you get a bigger project? You hire freelancers just like the agency's hired you as a freelance prior to that. So you go, okay, well, I need a copywriter. This person's really good at that. Let me get her to do this. And then I want like the graphic design style of this person, and I'll just oversee it as art direction, or account executive, and you just keep on going. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I've gotten lazier lately just because I enjoy the limited number of clients that I have. So I've started doing more photography because it's an instant gratification thing. Whether I'm getting paid for it or not, I still enjoy it. So that's where I'm at with that. And where it goes from there, I don't know. I may go back full circle to wanting to be more of an artist and produce work that I can sell a product. And lots of agencies have sold products before. And even the collaborations with their clients that they were doing advertising for, to do a joint thing, which helped out the client, and their product became a product of the agency as well, and they shared revenues. So that's very cool. So if you've got a chance to do a product as well as your other stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually did not know about that kind of thing, because I'm not always... What? That is such a whole world that I...
Well, I think it came about as somebody asking a question. We got a really good idea, but, we would like you to make our product for us, and, we'll put our name on it and get a percentage of revenues. You'll do it at this price and, go from there.
So it's really your product, but not... They just slap their name on it?
It's probably like a 60-40 kind of thing. So it's your name with their pieces of the product.
So like Sony would associated with Marvel Studios kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of like that, or more like Beats headphones or something. You got the company that made the headphones, and then you've got the mogul that said, I want it to be Beats and I'm going to promote it and I'll be your your promoter for it, and everybody that trusts me and my brand and my ethics will buy it.
It goes back to the social media influencers.
Yes,
Jim.
exactly.
See?
Well,
they're promoting a product and they're using their influence. If they are...
Okay, let me rephrase it. If you're I can influence you to leave the burning house. But
What?
I know. It's as weird as that. But if I'm the fireman, you're going to believe the fireman that you need to leave that burning house more if you're just looking at me and the house is on fire behind you. But you may think, well, she or he is cute. Maybe I should leave with them. No, I'm married. I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stay here and, the end. It makes no sense. But if I'm P. Diddy or, Jay-Z, and I've got my brand already made, I'm not really an influencer. I'm more of a producer.
Yeah.
Then that I've produced this act, this act, this act, this act.
Okay.
And now my production staff all wears these headphones. And if you want your stuff to sound as good as my production staff's doing it for these people, you need to be wearing these headphones because then you'll get the best quality out of them.
So it's called product placement, basically.
Pretty much, and shared revenues.
Great.
Yeah.
This video is sponsored by Samsung.
There you go.
Samsung T9. Such a great whatever.
And you can get your logo put on it for an extra $20.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, we are actually going to save a lot of this question for the next one because all the answers that you've given are freaking fantastic.
Okay, well, good.
Seriously, thank you. So we're gonna go. Unfortunately, we are also running out of time. We gotta get Jim out of here too, and I gotta adjust the camera because I just realized that is also not zoomed out or zoomed in. It's fine. It's actually
Do I need to move closer?
No.
Closer.
Yeah.
Closer.
Now, with everything that you have shared, from being a photographer from at the age of 16 or 17, from when your mom being basically the one that lit the flame for you as a photographer, and then having gone through numerous experiences such as, like what you just said, your business just got hit by a lot of hurricanes and then being taken advantage of, and then you learned a lot about the marketing, the ad agency marketing / whatever, with the the lost art of creating a print, all of that. What are some of the things? What are some of the key takeaways that you can share with the audience with what you have learned in your journey as a creative?
Well, probably one of the biggest things was to try to follow your gut in what you're doing for somebody, because you'll probably have people that'll give you some pushback on why you're thinking about doing something a certain way, because they don't see things the same way you're kind of looking at them, or having that feeling of, well, this would really work if I could get them to just change that to red instead of purple or whatever it is, because it's more cohesive look. And then they might try it in purple and they find out that it doesn't get a good response. Then you have to go back again and say, okay, can we try it one more time in the red? And then they get a better response, or they don't. It's a crapshoot either way. But usually, like today, you see some of these commercials on TV and you're like, whoever's doing not just their color grading, but the color placement. I forget which the one commercial is, but it's got purple and so many different things. And it's like, this is awesome. It's like you're looking over here and there's purple over on this side. And by the end of it, you're going, that is a very nice spot. I'd like to watch it again just for the prettiness of it.
Yeah.
And to me, that makes you want to learn more about that product, or see more about it. I don't know as far as, what more that you're looking for there, but...
No, that's a great answer.
Oh, okay.
That's a great answer. No, seriously, that is a wonderful answer. So, now, what other advice would you give to the next generation of people that are coming into this career? Because we're now... one of the biggest things that is so hard to accept is that we were once at our peak, and we're now having to deal with competing other younger people. The advantage that they have over us is time. And now, I don't know if you watch Cars. Have you? You know, the Disney movie?
Oh yeah, I love
Cars 3,
Pixar,
Lightning
I love it.
McQueen is now competing with all the new modern cars. And now you feel like you're slow, you're falling behind. What what are some of the advice that you would give to those people and also to those that are coming into the picture, the frame, the new next generation?
The people that are falling behind are the ones that aren't keeping up to date with the technology and what's going on. It's like if I just stayed in cut and paste on illustration board, putting on things now, people would go, "What's he doing?" You know. So you did have to switch to computers.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was going to joke when you first asked that question. I go, well, the first thing I would do if I was up and coming, I'd change my name where my initials were AI. So people go, I use AI for all my work. And they're like, perfect. Mine, Alvin, whatever.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't work. But staying up to date with the technology and not being afraid, you know, to use it and see where it can take you. Because yes, AI is going to be one of those things that does it. Just like the computers, when they started, everybody thought it was going to take over their jobs.
Yeah.
But it did mold into, yes, if I want to work and survive, I need to be able to use that tool
Yeah.
to do things that we want to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's video or stills or, you know, create products, you know, build houses with, you know, machines with, what is it, the printing, digital printing?
Yes, digital printing, yes.
You know, you would have never thought when I was a kid, oh yeah, we're going to have a computer that's got to connect it to a cement mixer and it's going to build a house.
Or like a 3D printer?
Yeah, 3D printing.
Yeah, 3D printing.
Like a Play-Doh house, you know.
It's a lot.
Everybody would have a house if that had happened way back when.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think I think that the future is. Do you think the future is bright for creatives?
Bright. It
Or-
could be too bright, but
No, not that. No. Do you think?
I'm always going to say yes because I'm an optimist.
Okay.
And because if you ask 3 people what a creative is, you're going to get 3 different answers. Someone will go to, well, I can even joke, say that you're weird or strange because you like Lord of the Rings. Well, that's just a different genre. You could like, I don't know, go back old school, Bonanza, and that's cowboys and
Scarface.
Indians. Yeah, or Scarface. Well, the couple we were talking about before, the one guy in that
Goodfellas.
relationship loved Scarface. But yeah, any of those. But that's all human nature things.
Okay.
And if AI becomes the new villain, then you know it's just like iRobot with Will Smith. He still had to concert that, you know, and you know. So yes, you've got to know your technology. You need to know how to control it, so it doesn't control you. And I think that's where AI is right now. That there's trying to get some standards on it to where it gets controlled some. Because if it doesn't,
It's Skynet.
Yeah, then there's going to be some machines that are going to be able to do that.
There is already. Boston Dynamics, they just made a robot that can lift and weld and carry the tools, literally do a foreman's. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, to me, that's great because you're not going to get me to lift something that a robot could lift because it'll be too heavy.
Fair, but what happens to the people that's literally their livelihood?
You switch gears.
How do you do that?
Well, to me, and this is not a political rant or anything.
Yeah.
If I migrated from another country to here and I was willing to pick fruit out of a field and do it cheaper than someone else, you know,
Okay.
would you do it? Yes,
No.
you would do it. And if I was the person eating that fruit and didn't want to pick the fruit, would you complain about the people picking the fruit?
No.
No, you would just take your fruit and go, I want to
Just
get
go.
it cheaper next time because we're not paying them much, so why should I have to pay much? Well, if a robot's doing it for free, you still have electricity, so you still have solar panels, you still have whatever's making that robot
Yeah.
work. So that's going to make either that piece of fruit cost $20 or 69 cents a pound, So you're going to have gives and takes.
Well, we'll save that conversation for another. All I'm gonna say is just kind of, I'm waiting for Judgment Day.
Well, I don't think Arnold won't be coming back, but it may be.
Let's just say it's going through an evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's just we're really scared, or not scared. It's gonna be interesting to see how that looks like. It's the same way with Photoshop, the same way with computer, like I said. It's gonna be interesting.
But you're going to have to make robots that can swim.
What?
You'd have to make a robot that could swim or, live in the desert and all these things. Well, for them to take over everything.
Fair.
I know it's crazy, but, is it going to do what a dolphin can do?
Or we build an AI dolphin. Oh my gosh.
You might, but it'll just be a visual.
What?
Well, a dolphin could be rebuilt right now as a visual, and you could have it swimming around in your
like
in your
spy
video.
dolphins. Oh my gosh. Anyways, getting off track here. Let's say. Oh, okay. Where can people find you on social media? I know we're gonna go through that whole entire thing again.
All over again.
Yes.
You can find me at I am Jim Clark. That's the main one. And then you can go to the website is iamjimclark.com.
Okay.
Yep. And you can just do a search up in the little friend thing up in Facebook if you want to do that.
Jim Clark.
Yes. Or just my contact information is on the website. So go there and you can get all of it. Yeah.
Jim Clark.
Jim
His
Clark.
contact information is also in Muse magazine.
It's on the back, I think.
Yes. Don't forget. You can please support Jim Clark, the Muse magazine. It's such a wonderful piece of work, and if you read into it, you will actually see if you're living in 30A or Panama City Beach or across the Emerald Coast, this is such a great piece of thing to have if you're trying to keep up to date with the creatives around this area. Especially if you're a creative, you're gonna meet a lot of people like Megan Glusser, all from reading the book. You will meet Lindsay. Is it Tobias? I forgot. Lindsay, she's an artist, she's a painter. You will meet people like her if you read this piece of magazine.
And you can look at it for free. You don't have to purchase it. If you go to my iamjimclark.com and go up and click on Muse, you can see all the issues. And if you want to just enlarge it on your computer, you can read the whole thing and don't have to spend a dime.
That's great, but I also believe in supporting our local artists. So if you have some extra cash, please support our local
If you want to do
area.
that, just go straight to Venmo and send me your money. It's I am Jim Clark.
I am Jim Clark. The title of this episode is I am Jim Clark.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any last words that you would like to share that you didn't get the chance to in our conversations? Do you have any last words that you want to share?
No,
with
I
us?
just appreciate you taking the time to listen to my BS most of the time.
What? Hey, no. No. It's not BS.
Well,
It's
let
all.
me a business.
Would you say BS or?
I said BS, so that's to be business suggestions. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna start saying people like if they say something wrong, I'm like business suggestions.
Exactly.
I was like, what?
Oh, BS.
Business suggestions. I'm so sorry for your ears. I'm gonna fix that audio in the post. But thank you so much, Jim, for making the time to do this with me. And I definitely would like to schedule another episode in the future.
It'd be a blast.
Huh?
Just tell everybody out there that I look better than this in person.
Bro, I'd like to think that we all age like fine wine.
But that's if you age. I'm not planning on aging. I'm just
No,
gonna
I'm saying-
I'm gonna get tired. I'm not gonna
No,
age.
that's not what I meant. I'm saying that wine still retains the beautiful taste, the look. Whatever.
What he's saying is I'm a Riesling, and I'm not dry.
This episode, please don't forget to like or subscribe. I can't wait to show you guys this episode. We also have a wonderful guest coming on for the next one, so stay tuned for that. And as always, you can find Jim Clark on all socials by saying I am Jim Clark. My name's Kino Manuel, and I'll see you guys in the next. She ruined my cup.
Kino!
Okay. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.